singing and really big cheer at the end. But you do, when you've got that full Wembley Stadium at the end of the night for me, as well as an absolute roar, isn't there? And you didn't quite get that same effect, probably just because of the number of people in the stands. But yeah.
And then we got the kickoff, and we got, I mean, what was one of the fastest, well, not just the first 10 minutes before the first real talking point, but the fastest first half I've seen probably since the grand final last year. In that heat as well that it was being played in, it was absolutely awesome. Alan, what did it seem as fast live?
It was definitely a game of two halves for me, in the sense that it felt like the first half went very quickly, and it felt like the second half lasted 1,000 years. Partly because of the injuries and the stop-start nature of the second half, the number of penalties, people with knocks getting treatment, etc.
St Helens playing Wolf tactics rather than Holbrook tactics.
It just genuinely felt like the second half was going on forever, in comparison to the first half. Because I've watched the game back today just to double check some of my assumptions and some things that I thought at the time. But yeah, I have to say, watching it back, it felt like the first half. It certainly whizzed to the first clear try scoring opportunity in absolutely no time at all.
Yeah, and Saints were probably on top in the early stages and cemented that with the Theo Farge try. What did you make of that, James? What was the vibe at the time for that?
So it felt like we were on top in the game at that point. I think had more of the territory. I think we forced a dropout potentially at that point already as well, and had more of the ball up there. So I think when it was a great kick by Lomax, he definitely directed that at the post, and Theo did pretty well actually, because I think was it Oliver Holmes who was on the line?
Yeah, he got a little bit of a touch on it, didn't he? Which made it harder to take on the fly for Farge.
Yeah, could easily have just deflected off Farge at that point and been a knock on, but he managed to adjust, take it and ground it. And I think, there was a big celebration behind the sticks at that point, and with the dominance we've shown and converting it, which we haven't always done this year actually, particularly in the first half, it felt like actually if we keep turning the screw in the next 10 minutes and get another try, we might be on for a sizable win.
Easy win.
But we didn't push home that advantage.
I mean, you did still seem to be on top after the restart after that try, but then against the run of play, try of the game, one of those the Wembley try conversation tries, I think, that was manufactured up the cast right edge between Peter Matautia and Niall Evalds. Absolutely outstanding try. Alan, you were in the cast end then, so I can only imagine the amount of joy that was spilling out on this one.
Yeah, there were a few pints going about, and I'll tell you that. I think from obviously I was right behind it, so they were kind of coming towards me, and it really felt like Evalds was just going to get caught. When the kind of ankle tap came in, I can't quite remember who tried to ankle tap him. It might be Lomax, yeah. And that kind of, it just felt like he was going to get tripped up at the last moment. But yeah, I mean, it has to go down as it's the try of the game. Try of probably, it's definitely in the conversation in the best tries of that I've seen at Wembley. And I saw the Martin Afire one in the flesh, so it's right up there with some of the best tries I've seen there.
Yeah, certainly in the Afire, Joel Tompkins, that sort of conversation. James, did you start to worry at this point? Because actually, after that try, Cass got into the ascendancy, and Evalds in particular got into the ascendancy.
Well, I think that it was interesting. It was one of the greatest tries at Wembley, without a doubt. And I think it was one of those tries as well that, it had Saints fans in our end clapping the try.
Yeah.
Which it's a very rugby league thing that you don't see that too often in other sports. But, it's one of those that you just had to kind of stand back and say, well, that's just an excellent try. And not many teams have broken Saints down from the halfway line in the last 2 years, to be honest. So it was a phenomenal try to see, and think. I didn't immediately worry because it was against a run of play, as you said. So, if we just got our heads down at that point and got back to where we were, I wasn't feeling too concerned. But actually, it completely changed the game. Castleford suddenly sniffed that actually they could score from distance on the field and really got their tails up, and Saints started making those mistakes that, I talked about some of those other semi-finals and finals earlier on that we have made in large games before, and just poor passing from dummy half from Farge a couple of times, where it was, balls around the ankles and knock-ons, the odd kind of penalty and, repeat set given away. And actually the game completely turned on its head, and they scored again fairly quickly as well. And I was quite concerned at that point, Mark. I can't lie.
Yeah, I mean, it was Jake Truman's try from the kick from Gareth O'Brien, I think it was, wasn't it? Pinpoint kick that Truman took. I think by that point, and for most of the rest of the first half, Cass were on top and were playing with a lot of ball movement, a lot of enterprise, and actually Saints seemed a little bit rattled, and to be in front at that point and then Saints having to make their interchanges, taking off Walmsley in particular, I mean Cass must have been really, really excited then, and James, you must have been quite worried.
Yeah, it was, and it was you could feel the momentum change in the stadium, in the fans, but on the pitch in terms of the field position. And we just didn't seem to be able to string a few good sets together to get back out. And Cass were clearly in the mood at that point, and we were seeing classy Cass, weren't they? They were putting the ball through hands, they were stretching us. There was a lot of pressure on our line, some good kicks in behind as well that nearly resulted in another try for Eccles, I think. And to be honest, the last 5 minutes before halftime, we were absolutely chewing our fingernails down in the Saints end, because if we didn't keep them out at that point, that was one of the biggest moments in the game, keeping the score at 12-6 and getting into halftime. If we'd gone down another score, it would have been so hard in that heat to get back into the game in the second half.
Yeah, because Cass had a great chance to settle for a drop goal, didn't they? Right on the hooter. I think it was Adam Milner who knocked it on at the play of the ball, and that you would have expected Gareth O'Brien to put it over, even though he's missed a few in this Challenge Cup run. He's also kicked a couple of important ones. Alan, what was the mood then in the Cass end?
It was obviously very buoyant. I mean, they were responding to how the team were throwing the ball around. They were very positive, I think, but perhaps slightly surprised. I think, they would have obviously expected to be the underdog, but actually they grew into the game after the first 10, 15 minutes, I would say. And yeah, they were taking chances. They were throwing the ball around, but it was sticking. There weren't many knock-ons in that kind of first half that not at the point where they were being expansive. There were a few knock-ons that kind of play the ball and bits and pieces like that. But yeah,
when they were being executed,
they were taking chances. I mean, the one thing I'd want to, I don't know if you've got a note about this, but one thing I wanted to pick out was the potential penalty just before half time. Percival's tackle on, well, I'll call it a tackle, I've been polite. Tackle on Daniel Smith, which should have been given as a penalty because the ref played advantage and there was no advantage, but he didn't come back for the penalty.
Oh, it was on the last tackle where Cass basically played on for about 30, 40 seconds, didn't they?
Yeah,
at least, maybe longer. We went fully out to the right and then fully all the way to the left before coming back into the middle before the tackle was made, I think.
But to me, he looked like, particularly when I watched it back, he looked like he'd spotted it, and was going to call it, and then he didn't call it. And to me, it was very, very kickable. And with a couple of minutes to go, you would suspect Cass would have probably taken the shot and might have been 14-6 up at half time.
So there was a couple of opportunities, weren't there, for Cass to have that lead extended. Then there was the the close call where I can't remember which, Grace I think it was, just got it out before Evalds got to the kick. Then there was that penalty, and even after the penalty could have been given, Cass had some opportunities, but they didn't quite get to the kick, did they, on that set? And then there was the drop goal where they fumbled it at the play of the ball as well. So yeah, I suppose Cass would be ruined that in all sorts of ways.
But yeah, the Cass fans were very happy about life at half time. I think it was a bit of a surprise generally. But yeah, it was
After the match, James Roby said half time came at the right time for us. Half time came at a good time for us, he said. And
he's not wrong.
He's absolutely right, isn't he? Because there was one side that were, even in that heat, wanting to keep playing, and there was one side that were hanging on a little bit at the back end of that first half. James, what were you thinking at half time?
Yeah, well, kind of glad that it was still 12-6, so positive in that respect, but feeling pretty down about the fact that, for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, we were very much on top and then just completely lost our way, and quite impressed still with how Castleford had played, to be fair, and what they produced in that first half. I thought it was excellent, and they were right on top of their game. Well, mainly on top of their game. They did spurn some chances at the end of the half to put themselves further in front. But yeah, just disappointed. And the problem as well with, I can't complain too much being a Saints fan who've gone back-to-back Super League champions, but Christian Wolff he's a defensive coach. And so when we are playing from behind, I'm always concerned that, our attack may not be up to snuff in getting us back into the game, and particularly in that heat, if you're trying to chase the game a bit. And with the talent Castleford have got, I thought it was going to be a stretch, to be honest, and we certainly had to score the next try. I thought otherwise we were probably done. So yeah, not feeling too great at half time, but the beer did help, of course.
Well, then into the second half, and it's, after a breathless, relatively controversial lie and thoroughly exciting and exhilarating first half, we hit on our first kind of long delay of the second half. A big moment of controversy. Shall we do a little poll between us now, between the three of us? Was the James Roby try correctly awarded as a try, or should it have been disallowed? James, you can go first.
It was absolutely the correct decision. To be honest, when I was in the stands, I was telling my dad that it's not a try, whilst I was watching it on the screen. And then the longer it went, I thought, do you know what? He might give it, because I don't think he was quite sure, given he'd given a try on the field, which foot had left the ground last and had the ball hit the line or not. And it went on to be a try. I think it probably wasn't, to be honest.
What did your dad think? Was he confident?
He was much more bullish about it being a try. Can you believe it?
Yes.
Whilst it was going on, I think still stands by it. But I was wavering, I've got to say, Mark, throughout the process.
So James is sort of
on the fence.
Yeah.
I think it's if he hadn't given the try on the field, then it wouldn't have been given a try, I don't think, would it? I don't think.
How crucial the live call is strikes again. Alan, did you at the time think it was a try? After watching it again, do you think it's a try?
I wasn't sure live because it was a bit of a schmozzle, and I was kind of a fair distance away. But I watched the replay on the screen, same as everybody else, and I saw it once, and I knew it wasn't a try because Regan Grace was in touch. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. You have to come back into the field of play before you touch the ball. Otherwise, it's out of play. You're in touch. That rule is very, very clear. To me, genuinely, it's an unfathomable video referee decision.
It almost feels like they were looking for a way to allow it after it was awarded as